Welcome back. I haven't done a video in a long time because my phone doesn't work properly. I have to have it plugged in. So I thought maybe I'd talk about a series of books that are really great. They're all different books about different trips, but it starts out with Dylan Wallace, The Lure of the Labrador Wild. And this was 2013 when Wallace and Hubbard and George Ellison, who was a native guide, took off across the trip, across Labrador. And this is not a spoiler alert because you're going to know this as soon as you pick this book up. Hubbard does not make it. He dies on this trip. And it's a book about a lot of mistakes. And you don't really have to be into canoeing to like this book because it's quite an adventure. And you can learn from other people's mistakes if you want. And so what happens is Dylan Wallace writes another book a couple years later when he goes to try and complete the trip that his friend Hubbard died on. And it's called The Long Labrador Trail. Now, the interesting thing about this book and this trip is that Hubbard's wife is doing the same thing at the same time. So it turns into a race. Hubbard has a bunch of college boys with him, or I should say Wallace has a couple of college boys with him, and Mrs. Hubbard has native guides. And the difference between the two trips is really quite amazing. And I would recommend all three of these books. They're all fantastic. If you don't want to buy three books and you want to have kind of a novel of it, Greatheart is kind of a novel based on the facts of these three books and those three trips. And this is a very good read as well. And there's been some programs made about George Ellison that went with the original Hubbard and Wallace, and who basically was the guide, the main guide for Mina Hubbard. And she listened to him, and they did, well, if you read the book, you'll see how they did. Anyway, those four books are all worth reading, and if my wife would come back in here, thanks for joining me.